I'm already home. I'm already home. They want me to fall from the top. They want me to drop. They want me to stop. No. They want me to go. No. I'm already gone.
We are already home. Welcome to episode 7, Stuart.
Yes, sir.
This is the Black Home Ownership episode. Welcome to the Lunch Break podcast. Your spot for all things lunch break and juice box related. What's up, man? How you feeling, bro?
Good, man. I feel good. Happy it's Friday, man. Happy to be on here with you, man. You already know this is
you ain't got
this
no
is my form
job,
of
man. Talking about happy
therapy.
it's Friday.
Hey, man, the weekend just hits different because it's like now I'm just waiting for everybody to be off work.
Yeah, completely understand. And Stu, you said this is your form of therapy. I want to be respectful and let you all know that I am impacting Stuart's therapy time right now. Not right now, but I was late to the pod today. We're going to have to move our day that we shoot because we're just getting busier. And I'll let Stu in his own time say how he's getting busier. I'm back to work officially. I have not shared that on the podcast, I think. So I've been back to work
that's
for 2
true.
weeks, drinking from the fire hose. It is very real after being away for 3 months. So we will be shifting our recording time, but still going to come in here and give you what you want and what you need, folks. So we started with Already Home. You just got back home from St. Louis. You had a birthday last week, man. Update us on your life, man.
Yeah, man, I had a lot going on. I had so much. 36 Savage. Yeah, man, I went to St. Louis on Monday.
Start with the birthday, man. Start with the birthday. Give us. Oh, well, I guess that was before your birthday.
Yeah, it was before. Yeah, so starting on Monday, went to St. Louis. My brother Jeremiah got a job at Boeing. And I'm super proud of
the same
him.
Company that employs me. Shout out to little brother.
The same company, man.
I can't wait to meet your little brother. I've been starting my travel schedule a bit, and I shared some of that with you today as we were trying to align what we were going to shoot in February, or record in February, that is. And I'm sure I'll be going to St. Louis at some point this year. Most of my team / organization is in St. Louis, so I'm definitely going to try to hang out with your little brother and at least meet him when I go out there, man.
Yeah, please do. He's in so I forgot the area that he's in now.
Westport.
No, he actually went with a spot that was closer. No, he picked a spot that's like 10 to 15 minutes from downtown St. Louis. I forgot what it was called.
Gotcha.
It's a common name though. Like a lot of cities have this kind of name. I forgot what it was called. Beaver something.
University City. I don't know. All right, we don't need to spend much of our precious time talking about St. Louis.
Yeah.
But how was the experience?
So Jeremiah is good. I'm proud of him, man. I'm just so happy that I was there to help him kind of, think about all the things that will affect where you live and just your mental health. Like being able to get to work in 15 minutes, like sounds like a novelty or something that is innocuous, but it's important. It really does mean a lot. Traffic in St. Louis is actually not that bad based on what I experienced for the
I'm glad you said that caveat based on what I experienced. But I was going to just be quiet. My face was stoic in the moment. I was trying not to express or react, but and it was a very different time when I went out there. And in the same way that you were a Sherpa to Jeremiah this weekend, I remember being there, and one of the most profound things that resonated the most when I was out there is you kept telling me, don't be isolated. Talk to people. Just don't. Because I knew no one when I moved there, and I don't want to usurp this moment. And by the way, you're starting with the word of the day quickly. You said innocuous. I think I just said usurp. So we're just gonna let the vocab fly today and find one. And I do have Game of Thrones stuff I want to talk about today in the context of homeownership. Perfect, man. Look, we're aligned already. But again, I don't want to usurp the moment.
That's the neighborhood. Brentwood. My bad.
Yeah, that is where Boeing is located out there. Got you. Boom. So. OJ comes to mind, but we'll keep moving past that.
I mean, yes, me too. I said the same thing.
And the juice is loose, right? Look, we're trying to name our Lunch Break fans the Juice Crew. Perfect.
Well done, sir. Well done.
All right, man. So I do want to get back to the St. Louis thing eventually, but I want to hear about your birthday. So in general, just happy to hear about you helping Jeremiah transition. I know that's not something that we had when we started I'm going to use the word journey. You don't like the term journey. I'm just going to lean into it.
Pilgrimage. Voyage is better.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, I mean, that's in our copy for the episode. I wrote that in there. I figured you'd like voyage better.
Yeah.
So planting that seed. But how was the birthday, man?
Birthday was great, man. It was good to just be close to people that, I've known over the years from different places. I had former coworkers pull up. I had, family pull up. My cousin came. And my friends who I call my brothers showed up. It was great, man. I love bowling. We went bowling, Bolero, Atlantic Station. We had a good time, man. It was great. I felt very loved this birthday for sure.
A quality middle-aged birthday.
Yeah, a high quality
Welcome into middle
birthday.
adulthood. We went bowling. My friends loved me.
Yeah, man. Loved on me a little bit, man.
Remember how birthdays used to be? Man, we had a bottle service in the club. It was 50 this. And the tab was crazy. Yeah, there's nothing like that. Like I had a Pepcid as I concluded my evening. I had a Pepcid AC. I know you did, man. Like, yeah. This is where we are now. The wash tequilas, all right, man. Well, that I feel like Stuart is trying to move through this expeditiously because that was not an expository detail on what this weekend. That was it. Oh, last night we went to Rocksteady. Back to Rocksteady. I was at the James Room for a little bit. Shout out to Aaron Madison, my man Poncho over there in Buckhead. Great situation. I mean, very, very good time. You told me you were going to go to Garden Room for dinner. Did you all end up going to Garden Room for dinner?
We ended up canceling that. It was just too much. It was just too much. Okay, cool. So we, so yesterday just went to Rocksteady, more friends, more hangout, more, so we did bottle service. Our boy TJ was in town, from New York. Shout out to Twitter Sports. And we just kicked it, man. It was a good time.
Name drop, man. Yeah. What does TJ? What does that mean? What does shout out to Twitter Sports? Because like your life is fantastic, and I think that we continue to approach these things with such familiarity that we are.
Yeah, that's true.
We're not as typical as we think this life is that we're living, and people are interested, man. So just
lean a little. Yeah, more. I mean he's the vice president of global content partnerships over at Twitter. So but really got his start in sports. So Twitter Sports. I mean, all of what they do, he pretty much is the professor of. He's invented a lot of the strategy and business development that's over there. Yeah. All right, man. Well, that's all you want to say on your weekend. I'm not going to keep forcing. Yeah, I don't have anything that I'm trying to pull out. I'm just giving you the space and time. No, it's Friday, so I'm good. Yeah. No, I'm great, man. We had a good time last night. Actually ready for the weekend. Going to see Jeezy perform with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra tonight. So
your life is really interesting, man. Like I'm doing nothing tonight.
Gotta be capping it off, man. That's all I got, man. I'm excited to sit the hell down this weekend. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're putting together a birthday week though, and just to that point, you felt very loved. You deserve to be celebrated, bro. So we appreciate you, man. The world, the post. I'm sure you all are wondering whose voice is behind the page. It's both of our voices, but the birthday post behind the Instagram page specifically. That was good. But the birthday post for Stuart was my voice on behalf of the people. So all the people who celebrate you, the listeners, the people who are in your family and community, as you said last episode, not just network. Yep. Love you, man. So thank you for being Stuart J. Cornelius, man. Love you too, man. And it's funny. It's so great to hear you say that because I remember the first time I told you I loved you, you freaked out. You were like, "Whoa, this is weird." So this is we'll say that for the fatherhood episode we've been on. What an evolution we've been on. We'll save that for the fatherhood episode when we talk about how I was raised and didn't really receive a lot of male love. So it was a journey to understand how to absorb. That's gonna be a good one. Y'all are gonna love that. We say I love yous and all that now. I think it's still weird when I say it to Austin now. He's like, all right, man. No, later, all right, so the reason for the occasion, and you all know we're a topical podcast. So really today we decided we wanted to come in and talk about Black home ownership. Stuart bought a home in September, was it? September, that's October? Right. Okay, bought a home in October. No, September. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, so in September, I just saw the home for the first time in October. Right. I bought my home in Dallas in 2019, December 2019. And just can't believe it's been that long already, man. We'll get into it, but quite a bit of equity since then. So, homeownership is a great idea. We will take it. Really to center us in this episode, I think there are a couple things. So you all know we start with music. So we started with Jay-Z's Already Home, Jay-Z featuring Kid Cudi. We love Cudi, although Stu went to see Cudi for the first time without me, and I'm kind of offended by that still. But you will answer for your crimes, man. We were always supposed to go see that together. But I know. A lot of Wiz concerts. All good, man. So in that song Already Home, we were just thinking that the energy that comes with that, right? Like just the idea of being in your home. The sign behind you that my wife created, I'll give that shameless plug for House of TruLUCK. That sign behind you is that's staking your claim, right? You have a piece of land, you have a piece of this country. And I think it is
it's just critical to ground us in some stats to start. And last episode, you shouted out Dr. Mormon and talked about a lifelong lesson you take with you. And the lesson was, in God we trust, in all others must have the data. Did I say that right?
That's right. Yeah, you got it.
So I took the charge and I decided to come in today. We would be the Smarty Arty podcast and center us and ground ourselves in data to start. So according to Pew Trust, which I don't know who this organization is, I did not do that deep of research, but
they do research for everything. Yeah, they do research for everything.
They're a research body. I understood that much, but they're .org. I can't say how long they've been around or all of that, and it would not be in the essence of time. But I am citing my source. So according to Pew Trust, 45.3% of Black households in 2022 own their home. And that's in comparison to 74.6% of white households at the same time. So that's a 29-point gap. In 1960, that gap was a 27-point gap. So the gap has increased. I can't say what the trend has been over time, but there is an increase in the gap. And the reason why that 1960 statistic is important, at least to me, it's statistically significant because in 1968, that's when the Fair Housing Act was enacted. So recognizing in 1960 things were not so great, it should have been improving after 1968. We arrived 55 years later and it's actually worse. And specifically that 55 years, it got me to thinking, right? And my mom is 56 years old and she also does not own a home right now. So when we talk about this being generational and what we're doing being something that is transforming generations to come after us in a vehicle by which we gain generational wealth in our community, it's something that we just don't see enough. And especially coming from where we come from, it wasn't an example that I saw often personally. And hopefully, as you share your journey today, you'll help us explain if you saw it, what it looked like growing up, what this means to you to have it now. And just we'll get into it, bro. So any reflections before we get into the guided discussion?
No, that was great. Come on with the trend. And I love it, man. That was great. Let's root ourselves in the data. That was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, when I think, I mean, I'm an apartment baby, man. Like I lived in an apartment with like anywhere from 6 to 7 people at any one time with 1 bathroom and 3 bedrooms. Like that was where I grew up. and I didn't know that it was, I didn't know that it was any different than other people that if it wasn't for like TV, that would be my only indicator. It was like, oh, like people actually live in like houses, like for real, like with backyards and picket fences and, the American dream, which is, double-edged sword in a lot of different ways and can be received in many different ways, depending on socioeconomic factors, obviously. But yeah, I didn't know that it was, if not for TV, again, like I said, we had a couple people on the block that owned their house. And to be fair, my family owned the building that we lived in, but we lived in an apartment in that building. So it was just trying to
break down the flexes that you're giving me in these moments.
Yeah, man. My grandmother and her
processing face.
Yeah, well, yes, that's true. Make sure you subscribe too, by the way. Yeah, so that was my first, you look at Fresh Prince, you look at Family Matters, you look at all of these different shows that we grew up watching, like that was my indicator, like people live in like houses that have backyards and space but all of the financial benefits or all of the just mental health benefits, quite honestly, were not really readily understandable from my side. Not until I got older.
So in that, a couple things that come to mind for me are, again, there's this recurring theme of how our conception of what life is like is informed by television. So we've talked in the past about therapy. It was Tony Soprano and Dexter and all of those other things, or Atlanta, right? We had no models of certain things. We had no role models, no examples. Last time Stu talked about the mentorship that he was afforded in Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, or maybe we were too old to be getting mentored by that time, but we were absent of certain examples throughout our whole life. And this is another place where I've always been like you. I've been absent of an example. There was no one that I can recall in this moment or in any moment often that was a homeowner. It certainly not in my immediate family. And I was a raised in apartments kid, just like you. Perhaps we'll get into it later where there were times when I was houseless and I was homeless throughout my childhood and late childhood, I guess, whatever that like adolescence, I guess it is. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. And it just dawned on me that I do have an example But I wanted to ask you about your time in Carolina. Like, I remember you recently going
trailer
past
grandmommy lived in a double wide trailer. So, and I thought that was a house.
The house.
You know what?
I mean,
this is a really good point.
You showed me a picture of that area. So in my mind, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it was on land, but she lived in a double wide trailer, wood paneled walls. And when I would go down there in the summertime, this is my great grandmother, folks. I call her grandmommy, and she passed away many years ago. But when I would go down there and spend the summers with her, it would be in her double wide trailer. But to me, that was a house. She had 2 bathrooms in there. She had a proper living room. You walk up some steps, it was on wheels and all of that. Although it had like a trailer bed skirt, whatever that would be called around it.
The joint at the bottom,
yeah, just pretty it up so you don't know what it is. But just a little box on a plot of land. So she did not. And granted, to your point as well, so the land on which her trailer stood was her blood sister's land, and her sister had a house next to it. But I wasn't spending my time in Anna and Gel's house. I was spending my time in grandmommy's trailer. But when you go back to New York or Baltimore, it was just all in the buildings. And that was really all you understood. And, several people in there, single bathroom. Now, those properties now, because of gentrification, where we grew up, those blocks and those things are worth a lot more, but they were apartments and they were rented. And, or perhaps you don't know, I don't know that you were part of this conversation, but in Costa Rica, I was actually talking to Trent. And Trent, friend of the podcast, Trent is in real estate development, or commercial real estate development. And specifically, we got in a conversation around not affordable housing, but attainable or accessible housing. And I may be misusing one of those terms, but it was definitely attainable or accessible. And he's into developing that. And we got in a conversation around how people utilize money and who would be looking for attainable housing or accessible. And he spoke about it's often the blue collar worker. And then from the commercial development side, you want it to be the blue collar worker because blue collar workers are more apt to renew. And it's because their spending habits and behaviors, their purchasing power is great. And especially folks who can get unlimited overtime and things, they can earn a lot of money, but the way that they use the money, and this is just from an industry standpoint, right? I'm not trying to perpetuate a stereotype, but it is real. And the way that they typically use the money is going to be different than white collar workers because white collar workers are around other white collar workers who teach them how to use their money.
That's right.
And I think that's a really important point, especially returning to St. Louis, because when I first started in St. Louis, I was broke, dirt poor. Just the legitimate thing there. And I would be remiss, and Black people love saying I would be remiss. Everybody at the funeral kept saying I would be remiss, but I really would be remiss if I didn't state that there is something that we need to explore when people start at these companies. So I'm so hyped that you were out there to help Jeremiah. And when I started at Boeing, I wish that there was a look at my socioeconomic status prior to starting, because I had a letter that said I made $51,500 a year. This is like way back when, right? But I didn't have $51,500 in my pocket. I actually had $0 in my pocket. And all I had to live off of for the first 2 weeks before I got a 1 week check was the per diem that they gave me, which was like $29 a day. I had all these issues from the past that created a credit thing. I won't go into what that is, but I started my life with apartments in my name that couldn't have possibly been true because I had just become 21 to get an apartment. I never had one when I was in college, right? So I start off and there was just this climb. And I wish that corporate America kind of eased that climb for me, or like there were some different considerations for what that looked like, because everyone doesn't start at the same point. And that's really what equity looks like to me. So all that to say, I had colleagues who were non-Black and they already owned homes at 22, 23 years old, starting life off. And that was so mind blowing to me. It was so foreign because I slept on my I got the apartment, had no furniture. I had nothing. Like, I graduated with 3.75. I didn't get envelopes after graduation. There was nothing to help me start my life. So I was starting from just point zero. And there's this book. I'll shut up here in a second. There's this book that's 0 to 1. You probably heard me talk about it a lot. And the main concept behind that is going from 0 to 1 is the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. Once you learn how to get 1, the ability to exponentially grow from there, you already know how to get 1, so you can get 2. You know how to get 2, you can get 4. But going from 0 to 1 is so extremely difficult. And that starting off point, man, like what was that like for you starting your even housing journey? Let's go there. So let's talk about the process of getting your home that you're in now. Yeah.
So me and Audrey, my partner, we were like, look, let me start here. When I left New York, my plan was always to get a house, regardless of what life would change. Like that was my plan from jump. That was always my ideal, because I knew that in New York, I wouldn't be able to afford a home where I would want to live.
And you mean when you left New York after going back after college? Let's put us
college,
in the right
correct.
time.
Yeah, exactly. So I was in New York for 12 years before I moved to Atlanta, and this was after college. And you know, if I wouldn't want to live anywhere that wasn't Bed-Stuy, to be completely honest, like that was just where it just felt like home. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't afford the, you know, brownstones in Bed-Stuy are, you know, anywhere from 1.8 to 2.5 million dollars if I had to like
I still can't.
average that.
Maybe I can, but it's like I don't want to try to afford it.
That's absolutely correct. So, you know, for me, it was just like, okay, I always had this portion in my mind, even as a small child, that I was going to move somewhere that I could afford a house. And that was only further exacerbated by the pandemic, where I was in an apartment, 689 square feet for 2-ish years. And that was just difficult, like all the way. And I think that's why I alluded to the mental health piece of it earlier, because you don't realize how few or how small your place is when you are there the whole time. You know, in New York, you know, you go to work, you're at work for at least 8 hours. You might go get a drink after work. So that ends up being anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. So you look up and you've been out of the house somewhere from 11 to 12 hours, and you come home, 8 hours of it is sleep. So it doesn't really dawn on you that you're in this very small space, because you don't spend that much time there, at least not awake. So yeah, moving here, it was like, let's get a house, right? So I was living in an apartment, and she was just kind of like, you know what? It would be great to take a look at the market, just see what we could find. I was like, you know what? Great. That's smart. Cause that was my plan when I came down here anyway. So went to take a look, and we probably looked at like 15 different houses. But the first house we went to look at had a realtor associated to the property. So we didn't have one going in. And my realtor was,
hey man,
I mean, yeah.
I'm sorry to be disruptive with this thought, but I'm not going to let you keep doing this, because it's a cultural topic that people talk about. Is it realtor or realtor? You're saying realtor.
Realtor. I don't know.
Realtor.
Is it realtor?
Pam
situation.
And I'm sorry this was disruptive, but I believe it's realtor. Let's
realtor. Excuse me. So yes, sure. Realtor. It is.
I'll send you the clip of why that's funny.
All good.
My
realtor is this black woman. What'd you say?
Stu's pissed at me now, y'all. Go ahead.
Realtor. Let me make sure I get that right. I mean, accountability. This is what we do all day. So my realtor is this black woman. Fantastic. Her name is Sean Ware. She was associated to that first listing, and we loved her as soon as we met her. And she was just like, you know, you all are beautiful. I want to help you and go on this journey with you of home buying. And I think from that first property, we probably went and saw probably close to 10 to 12 different places in different parts of Atlanta, some in Camp Creek, some in Decatur, some in various different places, a lot of South and a lot of East, because my partner goes to Emory. So I need her to be close to school. So yeah, that was the process that got us started. And ultimately, you know, we settled on a place. We saw a lot of places. It felt like we were seeing a lot of places. And this is in the summer months. So this was like July, August time, when we were of 2022. Yeah.
One quick note for the fans out there: Stu's partner going to Emory. Stu is not a middle-aged man dating a college student in like undergrad. This is an advanced degree.
Oh yeah,
so right. Just wanted to put that out there for folks.
Public health. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Just wanted to set the stage for those who don't know us. Related to, you said a lot of things that resonated there, but as I think about the Black realtor aspect, that's one thing that we share in our processes, and we share some things, but our process was pretty different in how we approached it. Yeah. And I will say, having Black service providers, it does something, man. It just changes. It puts you in a level of familiarity. And I'm so blessed to have had a Black realtor, and specifically someone who was already a friend as well. So that's important.
Right. That's where we differ.
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable process as well. I mean, you're bearing all of your financial information. You're trying to find alignment. You are constantly checked with reality and your idea of what you have for yourself, but what's fiscally responsible and all of those things. It's a lot in the process. And to have someone that feels like a friend or that makes you feel, as we talked about before, security and safety is so important. So to have that psychological safety in the process and not feel like you're just a number. You said that person grounded y'all and you're beautiful, right? Y'all are beautiful and I want to help you. I felt that just to the Black service provider thing. I felt that before, most recently in my PCP. So I have a Black PCP and Dr. Brown. And Dr. Brown, when she first met me, she was just so familiar in the conversation. It was, how you doing? Where your mom and them live? They doing all right out there? I was like, you don't know my parents, but it just felt so good that she did it in that way. And I was like, you know what? You feel like someone that I'll tell you how they're doing because I just feel this rapport with you instantly. And that was critical in this process of home buying because I was going in with someone who I felt like had my interest at heart. And my realtor is also a doctor of pharmacy. So shout out to Dr. Randy Bell. And
yes, sir.
You know Randy as well, man. And this is even important to help the people understand a portrait of Randy. So Randy, again, I'm already anchoring you all in the fact that Randy's a doctor. He's a super bright individual, doctor of pharmacy. He's an entrepreneur, obviously, by also being a realtor. And as you don't receive me often as HR corporate leader, people probably would not receive Randy as realtor based on the stereotype of what they place on Black men and also these roles. So we show up looking like us. We're looking at houses and you looked at 15, you said. I think we looked at like maybe 23. And we're just showing up in Nike Tech Fleece. And, I don't think I wore any do-rags for any showings. But again, to this packaging thing, that's going to be a constant theme for us. Don't look at my packaging and assume my packaging determines my purchasing power. So it was interesting to...
That's poignant.
And that's the thing in our community.
Yeah, no doubt.
If we go down that rabbit hole of why we wear Gucci belts and maybe sometimes jewelry and all of those things, right? And it's a thing about you feel better when you go in stores, Stu, and you point at stuff with your Rolex hand, knowing that the people will treat you differently. And I can't stand that about our country, but that's for a different episode.
That is absolutely right.
So yeah, going and having someone with whom you're familiar, having someone that has your back. And we saw 23 different spots. I feel like I never felt like Randy had another customer, and I know he had other customers. That's important. I never felt like I was a number. I was being caught up in the shuffle. And another thing to state that was critical in this process was the demystification, another theme for us, of the home buying process. Because since I had never had an example of home buying, I did not know what it took. I had this monkey on my back and this looming thought over my head that if I didn't come up with 20% of a multi-$100,000 home, I would never be able to afford it. And my whole life, I'm looking at the student loan that's at my back from the $32,000 I had to take out just to go to Morehouse freshman year, and the ills of my past that are nipping at my heels, and all of these things and chaos and the financial burden of trying to come up with it, even with a great job, was just, I was climbing out of so much. I was never certain I'd actually reach that. And there are so many of us that feel as if we'll never attain this. And home ownership is important to note this as well. Home ownership may not be for everyone. So we're not here to proselytize you if you're on the fence or saying, I don't ever want to be a homeowner and it's just not for me. Some people want to be in apartments their whole life. It's convenient. Condos, even though that's also home ownership, there's so many other formats, but you don't have to buy a home. I wanted to, and we wanted to, and it's really changed my worldview in so many ways. And I guess to point to another part of the conversation, I was so excited the first time I got to your house, man. And I'd assume vice versa. You've been to my house a couple times now.
That was hype.
But right? And it's just like, no, my boy did it, because back to that statistic, there's so few of us who actually have done that. So what does that feel like for you, knowing that we grew up in a place where we didn't see much home ownership? What does it mean to be a homeowner?
It means the world to me now. It's one of those things where, again, you don't realize the mental health benefits of home ownership, having the space to walk around, having the outdoor space, more importantly, to be outside in a place that is safe, that is yours. Hopefully it's safe. That is yours, that allows for you to go out and think, relax.
What did I tell you to do when I got to your house? What was the thing you talked about the outdoor space? Yeah.
So Zan, upon his first visit, I think it was maybe before you were about to leave, you were like, bro, you have to go outside and put your bare feet on the soil. Go touch some soil, man. Go touch the ground. Go touch the earth. This is your place. This is your safe haven. This is your sanctuary. go enjoy it for real. Which was the best advice ever, because there's something different about walking around your backyard bare feet, man.
Connected to your land.
Oh man,
connected
it feels
to
so
all
good.
The prayers of every ancestor of yours that wanted you to have something in this life.
That's absolutely correct.
It is just a powerfully incredible moment.
It is.
And so,
no question.
Conversely, y'all, I don't have grass in my backyard, and this is kind of funny.
we just realized this the other day, too.
Yeah. So I actually bought I bought a place that I live in, a single family home, standalone home, blah, blah, blah. I have a little bit of front yard. I'm looking out the window at it now, but it's nothing much. But my backyard is basically all paved cement and concrete. And I loved it because I don't have children. It was an adult backyard. It was like, yeah, this is the party backyard. But to a kid who grew up in a cement jungle and around concrete and by row houses and things, I didn't see many yards. I was just in New York last weekend, right? And I'm walking around like, people don't have yards. It's just we had a little patch of grass in front of 465, and that was it. And then we never did much else. And even that, like my mom calls, right? So even in New York, this is the other thing about just being so confined to this grid system and living on this one little plot that is not grassy and verdant. You have, my mom calls buildings that she grew up in by the building number. So I just said in front of 465. You have my mama say in front of 1080 Park Place. Like, these are just people just say, that's all you know is that block. So I bought a piece of a block, basically. I was like, and I was outside the other day standing in the backyard, and our backyard is beautifully done. It is very nice, even though it is not grassy. But I'm standing outside and I'm looking like I'm just standing on the block right now. This feels like what I've always grown up around. And now I do want more grass, especially after going to your home. I don't mean this in a like, I want to kill you way, but I'm envious of what you have out there. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, man. I read a lot of Bible, man. Envious some wild stuff. So, but once I saw that, I said, oh, I realized that I'm missing it. But when I got here, I didn't even realize it was missing because I just wanted a place. Like, just get me on the board. And even to that point, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
And I may have asked you this before. Have you ever read the Monopoly instructions?
No. That is a very specific ask, but no, I have never read the actual Monopoly instructions.
So where do we really get introduced to home ownership outside of television and not in absent examples?
Monopoly.
It teaches you the game of capitalism and the game of America.
That's right.
And you've always been told how to play, but privilege is being, and look, now I've got props. Privilege is being able to hold these instructions.
There you go.
But seriously, it drastically changed my mind recently. And I'm not going to go into the directions or instructions, but just even that about what does it look like for home ownership as a vehicle of wealth building. And, got my little slab of land, want to buy more. I'm really interested in being, this is a shout out to Jeanette in this moment. I'm really interested in being a land baron soon, as Jeanette calls it. So instead of a landlord, a land baron, it's just, I'm excited about that one day soon. Hopefully that's on my plans for this year. But I got out here and just bought a slab of concrete. And to me, it feels great because it feels like what I grew up around is more than I've ever had. And so talk a little more about what the home you grew up in was like.
Man, I mean, it was tight. You know what I'm saying? Like it was.
You said like 7-8 people at a given time.
At any given time, I mean, at least 6 to 7 at any given time. My grandparents, my cousin, my aunt, my uncle was away at college. So when he'd come back, my other uncle, you know what I'm saying? So like it would be tight at any one time. The bathroom. And that's the thing too. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the bathroom was probably the most like coveted space, because there was only one bathroom. I remember when I moved to Maryland, because that was like the progress, right? Was my my dad, my stepdad, and my mom bought a townhome in Maryland, no backyard, no front yard, connected to other houses, obviously. And we had 2 bathrooms. And that for me was wild. I was like, dang, like I never have to wait to use the bathroom. Like this is just like an embarrassment of riches, right? My standard was just so, because that's what I come from. I come from a bunch of people being in the house. It was just the 3 of us in this townhome, this 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom townhome. And that for me was like, oh, we are like really out here living.
And Stu has 3 full bathrooms in his home right now.
I do.
Yeah,
And that is just, We're just moving the ball down the field, man. But yeah, it was tight any one time. I loved where we lived because we lived close to a park. So even though we didn't have a backyard or a front yard, I could walk to Tilden Park and blow off steam and have that space and actually like be on some land and it's concrete. But, you know, even still, that for me was an added benefit considering we didn't have that space.
Yeah, when we were in Brooklyn, kind of just connecting on the park thing, we were maybe 6 blocks down Eastern Parkway from Prospect Park, but it's not the same thing as actually having
that was a real actual park, like with like grass.
But, right, and sure, that's fun, but really when we're playing ball or something, we're playing on the milk crate tacked to the tree outside of the apartment building. So it wasn't really, and you know, with risk of going on the service lane and getting hit in the street. My friend Chris actually got hit in the street one day, like just you know, and I don't want to paint this dangerous, super gritty depiction of Brooklyn. It's just, you know, these things just happen type of thing. Like back in my day, things happen. But man, you know, even just to have that space again, right? And especially a thing that came up for me is when you talk about when uncles would come from college or XYZ, the Black home, and a house is not a home, to quote Luther, right? So it doesn't have to be a house to be a home. But feeling at home for Black folks, and back to that idea of safety, often anyone in your family having a house, and it's often not a lot of people, or a place that feels like home, is so critical because you have folks in our community where there's often transients, for lack of a better term. So like in your example, it's just, hey, I'm coming home from college. It's a different thing. And the house expands a bit. But in mine, it was so-and-so's back from jail. So-and-so's down on hard luck, such and such. And they can all stay at grandma's house. So, and it wasn't a house, it was an apartment.
It was the same. Absolutely. No question. Like everybody that came from Ghana to the States lived in this building. I should say that growing up, my grandfather rented out the apartment to my father and my mother, which is a downstairs apartment. That was the apartment that I grew up in. Right. So it was very much so the jumping off point for anyone that came from Ghana. It's like, look, we got you. We'll set you up here. So, yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what you said. Yeah.
So I guess I'm still being respectful of time because I feel like we got probably 10 more minutes before you need to get out of here and get to your session. So if I'm thinking about answering that kind of same question of what was it like, what does it mean to me? What was that home like growing up? Home ownership is extremely important to me. And without belaboring the point or, you know, I bring this up in flashes, but being homeless and being houseless in my adolescence impacted me tremendously. And of course. And when you say things like, even I was triggered, so to speak, in the moment when you mentioned just the bathroom scene, right? And I remember being at grandma's house with only having the one bathroom. And at times, like, it wasn't always terrible. I want to be abundantly clear in that. We had apartments in Maryland at some point in time, in Baltimore, but there were times when we did not. And like, there were nights, I know where I'm going to lay my head every night right now. And there was a long period of time and what feels like an eternity where I had no clue where I would lay my head at night. Sometimes it was the Ramada Inn. Sometimes it was sleeping at the Aberdeen rest stop in the cab with my mom. Like, I've laid my head on car seats so many nights. And in the morning, the bathroom triggering was in the morning, I'd get up before school and I'd wash my ASS in a sink at a laundromat or the Dunkin' Donuts and then go to school and act like everything was fine. And still have to perform through all of that. It was harrowing. It was a really dark period of time. So to have a space that I call my own right now, and every single night to know this is where I'm going to be. And back to that transience that fell upon my immediate family specifically. I'm a nomad, so I've moved over 35 times in my life. I've moved to 5 cities in the last 10 years. I've lived all over the place and been able to just pick up and leave and just pick up and go because I've never really had permanence. No place has ever felt like home. So I felt like a constant orphan, so to speak. And I know orphan doesn't speak specifically to the idea of home.
I know exactly
but you know what I mean.
You're not like tethered, really. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. There was nothing that really felt like the right. That's even why I struggle sometimes when people ask me where am I from, and I'm like, well, I want to say Baltimore. I want to say Brooklyn. No place feels like home. I was back and forth between the two. Some nights, like, you know, I just had a bag and was always in literal baggage and always living out of those bags. So when I think about
even today, still always have a bag.
And I know how to pack a bag well. Like, it's just, we're just travelers and nomads, man. And to have a space that is distinctly my own, to know that the fruits of my labor have paid off in this way, to know that the space is curated to honoring the child who never got to keep his stuff. So like, you know, I don't know if it was you that's walked into my studio before and where I'm filming from right now, but I have a lot of toys, y'all. And right in front of me, I got Legos and all types of weird stuff. So, but to people, somebody has walked in and it may have been you and said like, what in the 40-year-old virgin is going on here with all these toys? And
I probably was.
Well, you know, I lost so much in my childhood. I never got to keep like my awards, trophy things. They're all gone. I don't have permanence from my childhood except the Bible that my mom gave me in 97. It's like the only thing I still have from my childhood. So to have a place where I can just store my stuff and not be at risk of it being taken from me or storage being auctioned off, or like to be buffered against trauma in a space to that psychological and mental health safety that you were talking about. It's incredible to have a place of my own. And then to know that that place is a wealth generating vehicle. My equity in those 4 years is up, right? And this idea of now I'm at a point where I'm pivoting. Do I want to hold on to this piece of property and just acquire another one, rent this one out? Do I want to sell it for that equity? Can I go get 2 properties out of that? You think about rates, not like my rate is fantastic on this home because of when I bought. And then, like we're just thinking at a level that I never thought I'd have these kind of conversations because no one around me had these kind of combos. What you got?
That is just...
We got 5 minutes, man. And we'll probably return to this.
Yeah,
we can't cheat y'all on this episode, and we're speeding through it. And just giving you quick thoughts, but this is like home ownership means a lot to us. And the impact, right back to those stats we started with, it can mean a lot to our people. And you know, I'm always going to come out with the liberation and financial freedom stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's wealth gap. I mean, just owning a home is almost the single most important like cog in wealth building. Is owning a home. And
it's so foreign to so many of us. Correct.
And it's not until someone, you know, I mean, even you were my friend that did it first. Like you were my friend that I'm the closest, you know, that did it first, that allowed for me to, one, know it was definitely possible, but two, just the process and what you've been through. And, you know, like the mortgage company was holding us hostage at one point. The dude got COVID. And so it pushed our closing date back. You know what I'm saying? Like all of the painstaking things that we had to do to actually secure this to get to signing day. Crazy.
Yeah, sorry. One thing that our people have, unfortunately, birthed through the experience of being Black in America, we're all really resilient. So all of those things that pop up, you learn how to navigate them, and we're fine, and you're better off for it. And as you said, you were partnered with a good team going through it. But like I had some wild stuff going on, right? And I closed while I was in Denver. So I'm in Denver, Colorado on vacation, living a good life on vacation for my birthday. And I got to have the most celebrity closing experience, right? I had a mobile closer come to the Airbnb. Our Airbnb was an old retrofitted Greek Hellenistic church. So it was just gorgeous. And the person shows up and calls me like, am I at the right place? It's the church. I'm like, yeah, sure it is. Come on in. And I'm wearing, it was like Cribs. And my house is nowhere near as nice as the house I signed in. But I'm wearing a Versace robe when I signed. Like if I'm going to do this, I wanted it to be documented for the rest of my bloodline that the first Dragonstone or Castle Rock or whatever that property is, back to the properties we inherit from Game of Thrones, right? This inheritance was done on this day in this space, and we lived like kings the day we did it. And it really is like you establish a house. Yeah. Right? And I'm going to keep coming with the biblical influences, but in my mind, it's that idea of establishing a house. And that jumping off point for everything from there. It is so critical to just be able to get in that game and to say, wow, we've done it. Like we've made it in America, so to speak. And it really does feel that way when you've never had that. And you're an immigrant. So even what does that look like to say, I've come to this country and now I'm a participant in it in a way that I never could have imagined, or there were barriers to it becoming. Yeah.
I mean, it is paramount, man. And it's a privilege to be here, to be completely honest, because there's a lot of folks that either aren't exposed to it or haven't, been financially, blessed to be in the place to where that's even in consideration, like even, to the minutia, right? So
and this is where I do want to come back and do more on this, because when you say financially blessed, it's like, y'all, it is not. And if nothing else, we have to help people, because everyone's not living in the same, everyone's not in the same tax bracket, blah, blah, blah as us. For sure. But there are people out there who, again, you can get a home with 3% down. There are programs that Bank of America is doing with no money down programs, and just do what makes sense for you and really partner with the team, but start the journey. Start Googling, start talking to people about it. Like, there's a lot in this process that we just assume we can never make it because it's not broken down to us. And that's what I just want to give Randy all the praise, because he would go to the Pan-African bookstore here in Dallas and do,
that's cool.
Yeah. And he would go there and do circle group settings and say, I'm going to talk about the home buying process to you all. And that's just incredible to have Black people in the community learning as a village. This is what it looks like. It's not as scary as you think it is. And I went to that in September. In October, we were looking at homes. I closed in December. Like, it was a very go to a farm system. I always say, like, went into that thing, learned what I needed to learn. Okay, I'm comfortable. Let's build this and let's go. And it's just been an incredible moment. So looking at time, man.
Post that picture. You might have to post that picture.
I have all of the internet content of all of the homeownership.
You might have to post that on the
in the hammock in your backyard. I've got the one of me and Randy where we're coming out of the house, looking like the people we are. So, all right, man. In closing, because there was one thing that also came to mind, right? I'm thinking of Stu's home is very well appointed. It's very crisp, very clean, black and white accents. Crisp is a man of Crisp by Yossi. Stu is a man of details. So, Stu, what's your favorite part of your home?
It's gotta be the hammock, man.
Okay.
It's gotta be the hammock.
You had a hammock in Brooklyn as well, but you have a much nicer backyard now.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. I think it's the fact that I have so many trees in that backyard, and it feels like
it's Fern Gully. You live in the forest.
Yeah, it's big Fern Gully vibes. I mean, but when I'm in that hammock, listening to music, relaxing, maybe even having a cocktail, man, I feel like I am on top of the world. And whatever bad day is there, or whatever my issues or troubles or things I'm overthinking, usually they dissipate in that moment when I'm in that hammock.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I'll say in closing, we did really good on time today. We said, hey, air high five, man. We sped through it. Just really brief. It is the place from which I hail right now. It is my studio. I've been calling it the think tank this year. When I come in this space, one day I'll give you all a tour. Go to my Instagram, TruLUCK.art. You can see it. I believe I have some stuff on there, but it is a space where I get to hang out with my sneakers all day and my books and my paintbrushes, and I work from here. It's just like everything I do is created and generated in a space that's
right.
So me. So, yeah, man, it was beautiful talking to you on this Friday. We got to come and give y'all a part 2. I feel like we rushed this. I hope the content was still
we got to do earnest money. We got to talk about the 3% stuff. We got to talk about finding we got to talk about all of that stuff. We definitely got to do a part 2 just so people understand the details within the process that has helped us, that will likely help them.
Yeah, so this has been your Lunch Break podcast for, I don't even know what day Monday is, the 30th, for Monday, January 30th of 2023, the year of our Lord. But yeah, y'all just take it easy. We'll talk to you soon. We hope the content was wonderful. What's a good song for us to play out on, Stuart?
I have the perfect song. It's a little weird, but I love it. feel like a hymnal,
so
right?
Wild. Yeah, no, not quite. Feels real sexual. But this pews are rocking, don't come a knocking.
There's definitely a tie on the door song. Is it a tie or sock?
I don't know. I've never done that. That's crass.
I've never done it either.
You know, if Big Zaddy's in there, just don't come knocking.
That is good. Thank you for indulging us.
All right, man. Get off the therapy, bro. I'll catch you via text, man.